For somebody that's not quite hit 10K yet, but they've got a little bit of momentum, what would you say they should focus their time on?
Developing more skills to complement their copy. In 2025, I don't see copywriting as a career anymore. It's more of a core skill within other careers.
It's the same words if you write for a business that makes $10,000 a month or $1 million a month. You might be writing the same words, but at $1 million a month, the same words have 100 times the impact. So your bill is a drop in the bucket when you work with a big client. It's not expensive at all. How did you get good at copy?
I just kept saying yes to every project that I got the opportunity to do, whether it was ads or emails or landing pages, website copy. The big thing for me for a few years was...
When you start out, right, you get as much experience as you can within those first 6 to 12 months. But then there's probably going to be 1 or 2 big clients that you close. And the work that you do for them is going to give you a big result in one specific part of your writing. And then you lead with that from then on. What would you say is one of the biggest mistakes that you made early on in your career as a writer? And what did you learn from it?
It's a good question. I guess not really committing to...
So today I'm here with CJ Haughey. And CJ, you've been in the game for quite a long time now. Since, I think you started the same year as me in 2017, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, man. I went off backpacking in late 2017 as a field teacher at that point. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, and yeah, stumbled my way into copywriting from there.
And now you've worked with 50 different businesses, and you've helped people generate lots of results. Maybe tell some of the people watching some of the stuff that you've done recently.
Yeah. Initially, I started out as basically like a content writer, writing blogs, but didn't enjoy that a lot. Actually, a little backstep, I was teaching English, and I was doing this in South Korea. I knew I didn't want to do that, and I was doing travel blogging on the side. And that's where I got my introduction into like SEO and digital marketing. I wanted to figure out how I could actually make money from writing, and quickly discovered copywriting. From there, started to work with a lot of different clients, mainly like B2B, SaaS, tech. And then more recently, the last few years, I had a foray into the direct response world, working with entrepreneurs in wealth and health. And yeah, I've been across the board and had a lot of fun with it, from long form stuff, landing pages and websites, down into more short form like email and ads. So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun over the last few years.
Yeah, you've definitely done a lot of stuff that's not just copywriting. And I find it interesting because quite a lot of people, they don't know whether or not they should get into copywriting, but they're blog writers or they're web builders. Is content writing profitable at this time?
That adding at this time was very important there. And for me, content writing has been very profitable. I still, to this day, have a client that I got back in 2021, and month in, month out, they are one of my biggest invoices. But it's changing for sure. Content writing, everybody knows about the rise of AI, and the content writing is the first one that they're coming for. The robots are taking that over faster than anything else. And oh, really? I've noticed that too. Like clients that I once charged maybe $700 or $800 per 1,000 words. So on a blog post, over the last couple of years have started to renegotiate down. And there's a lot of people similarly who I know were charging $1 per word, or on half that rate now, and on half the workload as well. So I think it's profitable if you're doing it for tech companies, but I don't think it's a good long-term bet to be just a content writer, just writing blogs. I think it's shaky ground to be building your career on.
And that's mostly because of the AI. Is that like the biggest obstacle, or is there other stuff as well that you have to be mindful of in content writing?
Yeah, in my opinion, mostly because of AI. It can just churn out a 2,000 word blog post like that, and a good editor can turn that into a pretty solid blog post pretty quickly. So it makes it hard for a freelancer to say, well, for that 2,000 word post, I want $1,000 or $1,500. Obviously, there's more to the content, being really good at SEO and that, but Some content writers might not like this, but in my opinion, I see content writing like being a laborer on a building site. You're doing all the grunt work, lifting all the bricks, and it's all about volume and working really hard. Whereas copywriting might not be as high a word count, but there's much more strategy and psychology involved. So whereas a content writer is the laborer on the building site, the copywriter is the chief architect up in the offices, actually like pulling all the strings. So, and I much prefer the second route, the copyright.
Okay, yeah. So from what you've told me, my takeaway so far is that if you're going to be doing content, you need to be working with more of the tech side, with the software guys. Is that?
Yeah, if you're in the tech industries, like B2B SaaS companies, they're the ones getting the money, getting the funding. They're the ones that want to scale really fast. They're the ones that can pay for a lot of content every month, compared to like writing blog posts for a skincare company or like something like just a little bit more niche. It's not going to get the funding for content that a tech company will get. But honestly, I don't think it's a great, like I said, I don't think it's a great model to be trying to build it from 2025 onwards, just as a content writer. I think you have to have more than just the writing. You have to have the strategy element as well. That's what most copywriters will have, whether they're an email marketer, so they're not just doing the emails, they're also doing the strategy and managing the whole list, or they're in something like brand positioning. So they're doing the copywriting for a landing page, but they're also doing the positioning for the whole offer. So I think it has to have that strategy element involved. Like that's essential now.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, yeah. That makes sense, because also in the industry that I'm in, which is mostly personal brands, it's about the businesses that have a lot of money that they can pay. That seems to be, when it comes to writing, whether it's content writing or copywriting, it's the same words. If you write for a business that makes $10,000 a month or $1 million a month, you might be writing the same words, but at $1 million a month, the same words have 100 times the impact. So your bill is a drop in the bucket when you work with a big client like that, versus if you work with a client at 10K, it's like, oh, you're charging me $5,000 as half my income. At $1 million a month, it's like, oh, well, we're paying $5K to get $500,000 worth of marketing materials that we're going to be using for the rest of our team for the whole month. So it's like, it's not expensive at all.
Yeah, exactly right. Like if you're working with those personal brands, you're talking maybe entrepreneurs in the 8-figure realm or 9-figure, or tech companies that have got a lot of funding, like you said, that your invoice is going to be a drop in the bucket. Plus, their whole mindset's going to be different. They already know the value of copywriting and content and having good people doing their marketing, so they don't see your invoice as an expense. They just see it as an investment that's helping grow their business. Whereas if it's some really small business where one guy, he sees your invoice very much as an expense. He's like, oh no, I have to pay this. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. And a lot of copywriters, they go for these clients that are, let's say they have 30,000 Instagram followers. It's a personal brand, right? They have 30,000 Instagram followers, but their actual revenue is, let's say, 15K a month. And then they don't understand. They're like, Matt, how do I handle that? We can't afford this. It's too expensive objection. It's like, well, I don't know if there's a way to handle the objection. This is the wrong kind of person to work with. So.
Yeah. A few years ago, I wasted a lot of time. It was when I was first interested in getting into email marketing, and I paid for some of these tools to like scrape all the data for like e-commerce stores. But for some reason, I guess it was somewhat of a limiting belief or imposter syndrome around the fact that I hadn't done email marketing before. So I decided, and you'll have seen some of your students make this mistake before. I decided in that moment that I'm not ready to target these companies or entrepreneurs that are worth 10 million or 100 million. So instead, I scraped a load of data for all these companies that were making like a million a year, or like 500,000 to a million a year. And I thought, I'll start here and I'll get some results with these guys, and then I'll work about. The problem I ran into as I spent months devising this cold email machine and following up and outreach, every time I get a response and get into it, like a call or a conversation, I would hit the same wall where when I said my rates, they'd be like, oh, well, we can't afford you, because they're only making like 70 or 80,000 a month. So I'm like, they're not going to give me 5 or 10,000.
They don't. I mean, people think that $80,000 a month is a lot, and then they think, oh, I can charge $5K. It's not a lot. But when you're running a business at 80,000, you already have a lot of other expenses that people don't think about. And so I remember when I was at about 10K, and I was thinking to myself, big businesses like 600K a year. 700K. I even used to teach back in 2020 that if you have a business that you approach and he's above 600K, it's probably going to be a pretty good deal. Now I'm not so sure about that anymore, because now my income started to get to like the higher 6 figures per year, So now it's like, whoa, 700K a year is not actually that much money. It's good money for one person, but in terms of a team, if you have an entire funnel, you could be spending 25% of that income as a business owner on ads. You could have a salesperson taking another 10%, payment processing is like another 3%. Then you got tax. In most countries, it's going to be like 30, 40%. So now suddenly a copywriter is going to ask for $5,000 a month for work that you might say, well, I haven't grown enough to the point where I even need to delegate 100% of this. I mean, like even in my own situation, like I write most of my own copy still. Like I have a junior copywriter help me with a lot of copy, but when it comes to, writing copy for some of the videos that I create here on YouTube, I come up with a lot of that copy myself still, because it's like I want to be involved in that part of the process because I haven't delegated it to a senior yet. So I often think about that, and now it makes much more sense. But back then, I never really saw that because I was making only 10K, not like 60, 70, 80K a month, So anyway, that's something. I want to ask you, how do you transition from being a content writer to being a copywriter if you've just been a blog writer? There's like maybe some imposter syndrome, or how do you make that transition from content writer to copywriter?
For me, it kind of happened by chance. I was initially doing content for one client or an agency, and then the guy just messaged me one day. This is like 2018, and he just messaged me and said, "Hey, can you write web pages, like landing pages?" I had never written one before, and I remember he asked me for my quote, and I was like, $80, and he was like, "What, per page?" And I was like, yeah, and I thought he was going to say no, and then he was like, "Yeah, of course, let's do it. $80." And I've done like 20 landing pages, like which so like the whole package was like 1,600, like which is less than I would now charge for one page. So that was lucky in my. It was so ridiculous. Now I'm looking back, oh my god. But honestly, to answer your question, it's really. Like, just as I didn't know how to do it, I still was willing to say yes to the opportunity when it came along. And I feel like you can't say, oh, I've never done that before, therefore I can never do it. It's just if an opportunity comes along, say yes and figure it out on the fly. Because at the end of the day, it's still writing. You'll figure it out with enough research. Because, I mean, that's at least 50% of what copywriting is research. So you should be able to research how to do the job, where you're on YouTube or reading books or whatever. So for me, like it was natural. I knew from my own research that copywriting was like the holy grail, I guess. If you're going to try and make money as a writer, you're much more likely to do it as a copywriter than a content writer or a poet or something. Yeah. So it's just really following your curiosity. For me, the fact that copywriting is mostly psychology, that alone just got me curious. And of course the allure, the possibility of making money from it. So it's just whoever actually dedicates the time to try and develop this as a skill will be able to do it. Unfortunately, though, not a lot of people do that. 90% of new copywriters today don't really study it. They aren't reading books and taking notes. They aren't doing things like copy working or, practice and writing emails every day. They might hear about these things. They might even tweet about them or post about them. But a lot of people aren't actually doing that. They're not doing the work to level up on a regular basis.
There's a copywriter I was chatting with. Oh, go ahead, man.
Yeah, just to wrap that point, I think if you are one of those people who actually is taking like daily action to improve your skills, that immediately, puts you ahead of the rest. So very quickly, in 60 or 90 days, you can be in the top 10 or 20% of copywriters just by taking action.
Wow, 90 days. That's good. There's a copywriter, his name is Harrison. I was chatting with him several months back. Harrison told me that the one thing he was doing to get really good at copy is writing an email every single day as well. So that's the same thing. And he's a 6-figure copywriter, and he's been making 6 figures for a very long time now. So yeah, that's something I've heard a few times, just writing copy every day. And it's something that we talk about a lot in the dojo, right? As I say, a lot of copywriters in the early days, if you want to build up the skill and you want to get noticed and you want to have, good clients respect your work, just build up a portfolio. And at the same time as building a portfolio, just write emails as practice emails, get them reviewed, but actually write them for real businesses. Don't just write these fake emails randomly. Write emails for real businesses, get feedback, and then you have a portfolio of all these very, very good companies, and it's going to be really good. Is that what you did? Did you write emails every day how did you get good at copy?
I actually did a little bit of copy working, but I was focused more on sales letters, older copy, I guess. And I still do a bit of that today. Like, in fact, I just bought Copy-R, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Okay.
Because I seen the window was open again. I was like, I've never done this. I've heard the hype about it. I have did some copy working, and I was curious to see what the course was like. So I'm just like, no, I did it. I just bought it. And that helped me. I heard some copywriters talking about the handwriting sales copy, whether it's long sales letters or emails. I thought, how can that work? And the whole philosophy, of course, is that, you're slowing down, taking your time, and you're being very methodical and very present of thinking about all the different techniques, psychological triggers and stuff that's being used in the copy. And you're basically hardwiring your brain if you do it enough. So that was one of the things I did on a regular basis a few years ago. I haven't done so much now. And aside from that, just really battle-tested practice. I just kept saying yes to every project that I got the opportunity to do, whether it was ads or emails or landing pages, website copy. But the big thing for me for a few years was I was focused very much on branding style copy, create like brand voices, working in positioning, product marketing. And after a while, I started to realize that, you don't get to see the data feedback on branded style copy as often. So a lot of it is more, for want of a better word, a lot of like branding style copy is like wordplay. It's like trying to be clever with words. And as fun as that is, I started to really want to see the impact of my copy, the data. And that's what led me and got me more interested in doing email marketing and led me to the dojo, because email is great because you get to write a lot of emails more often. So it's like quick reps, and then you get the data feedback. So it's right there in black or white, open rates or click rates or conversions. You get to see whether your copy is working or whether it's not. And yeah, long answer to your question. When I came into the dojo, then I realized you were doing this. You were encouraging people to write emails every day. And it has that brilliant effect of, two birds with one stone. You're practicing your emails and getting better, but you're also building your portfolio. Mm-hmm. And so that practice and Harrison's advice on doing that, I fully believe in that. Yeah. If you're practicing something every day, that will compound over time. It's just you're building a really good habit, and you might not see the rewards straight away, but just by practicing it every day, it will compound and the results will come.
You mentioned something about copy work or copy working. What is copy working exactly?
So that's taking a pen and a paper and studying some kind of copy, whether it's like a famous old sales letter, or it could be a funnel page or some emails. and you're literally just copying it, copying it word for word, 30 minutes, 60 minutes a day. So that program I mentioned, Copywriter, is a 90-day program where they send you a famous piece of successful copy every day, and you copy work it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I used to write copy, like hand copy. That's what I always called it, like hand copy the copy. And so I'd hand copy, and I'd handwrite copy, and I'd write it. And for me, I didn't find it as helpful as I expected it to be, because a lot of people told me, just handwrite the copy. And I think maybe for me, I think it's worked for a lot of people I've worked with. They've told me that they've got only good things to say, and maybe in your experience it was like that. I think for me, I lost focus while I was hand copying, and I kind of like zoned out. And I don't know if that maybe I lost the value because of the fact that I do lose focus quite quickly on stuff. So what I found worked for me very, very well was I would take, maybe a sales letter or a couple of emails, and I would actually highlight and break down sections of them, So I would go like, okay, here's this email. Why are they doing this? What is this section? I'd like circle it and like write next to it, like, okay, it's this, or I'd like circle this and say it's this. And so for me, I learned copywriting more from breaking down idea by idea, not word by word. But I think that's also because I'm a native English speaker and I'm already familiar with communicating, that learning the nuance wasn't so difficult. It was more about understanding how to make a sales argument. But I did actually end up finding that copy working, like you said, I did actually do that later in my career when I started working with Dan Martell. And I was really struggling at first to write in his voice because he talks to millionaire software founders. So I was used to writing to consumer, B2C copy, just, basic stuff for everyday folks in North America. But writing for his audience, it was like a very unique group of people, software founders that want to grow their business. And I was struggling to write in his voice for 3, 4, maybe 5 months, somewhere around there. And after about 3 months, I was really struggling. And he kept giving me feedback. He's like, no, this doesn't sound like me. This doesn't sound like software founders. This isn't right. And so then I was like, okay, well, breaking down copy is not working for me in this situation. Like identifying ideas. I know what the ideas are, but I want to say it the way he does. So what I did was I did copy work. This is what you call, I took his old copy, the stuff he wrote and the stuff his team previously wrote that was like really, really good. And I started handwriting it for 45 minutes a day. And that was really useful. So I learned voice from copy work. And I learned how to structure copy from breaking down copy. So it's interesting, like all these different exercises, you can use them for lots of different purposes. But, a lot of people just sit and read books. They don't actually do these exercises. It's like the work is the part that you get better. When you work, you get better,
Yeah, I think I've also done techniques that you're talking about, really like dissecting the copy and, highlighting it and annotating the pages and, why something is working. Here's the benefit, here's the capability, here's the feature, here's the psychological trigger they're using, whatever. And that's, you mentioned people reading books, but like they read them and then they don't do anything. I think that like if you're applying, actually taking the notes and like making your own notes after reading the book and putting that into a file, you're really reinforcing that knowledge. So all these things, I think, go hand in hand. If you're doing them all together, it will just accelerate your learning curve. And like, I totally get what you're saying about zoning out sometimes. Yeah, copy working, you're just doing it on autopilot. So I think it is important that you have to be quite present while you're doing it, or else you don't get that benefit.
Maybe for those that use copy work, maybe you have like a little bell. I know in meditation, they sometimes have like every 5 minutes, like a little bell goes off to remind you of what's happening. So if you set up a bell or something every 5 minutes just to remind you, if you're doing it for 30 minutes, like little bell, stay focused, remember what you're doing it for. Here's a completely different sort of question, I suppose, is what would you say is one of the biggest mistakes that you made early on in your career as a writer? And what did you learn from it?
It's a good question. One of the biggest mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. Trying to pick one. I guess not really committing to one avenue. I mean, it's natural as a as a new writer, you want to test out different niches or different styles of writing, or even like different assets, whether you want to be creating websites or emails or ads. But I think you should have that experience for sure, and write for entrepreneurs, write for e-commerce companies, write for tech companies, and you should do all that and do it quickly, ideally in 6 to 12 months, and then you really zero in on what you want to do. Pick a niche, pick a service, and you just like pick one platform to promote yourself on. But if you keep like bouncing around, which I did for quite a long time, you can't grow. You can grow to 10K a month reasonably quickly. It's not that hard to get 10K a month. But if you keep bouncing around niches and you keep saying, I'm a website copywriter one week, and then next week you're a video script writer, and then next minute you're writing for mom blogs, next minute you're writing for supplements, it's just like nobody can really see you as like you're the guy for that thing, because you keep changing. So it makes it really hard for you to grow a personal brand or to a referral network or anything. You're just like very much a generalist, and I don't know a lot of generalist copywriters, modern day generalist copywriters in the last 5 to 10 years who are able to scale really high. They're usually always specialists.
Interesting. That is interesting, because recently I found a lot of business owners want full stack copywriters. They actually do want, maybe not a generalist, but they want somebody that's a specialist in all the copy, So what I found, which is interesting, is like a bit of a mix between what you're saying and what business owners want, is when you start out, right, you offer all these services because you want to get some wins, and you might need to just grab the first few opportunities that come up. And if you say, I'm only an email copywriter, then there might only be 4 or 5 opportunities. Whereas if you're generalist, then maybe you're going to have like 20 or 30 that you can choose between. And like you said, you get as much experience as you can within those first 6 to 12 months. But then there's probably going to be 1 or 2 big clients that you close. And the work that you do for them is going to give you a big result in one specific part of your writing. And then you lead with that from then on. So like there's a copywriter, his name's Christian, Christian. So Christian, yep. He is pretty good at pretty much all copy, but he got a client that was mostly email related. And then he got really great results for the email client. And then it's like, okay, cool. I can double down because these results back my name. I'm going to lead in as an email copywriter, but he can still write other copy. And I think that's maybe the fine line these days, because I totally agree with you. You got to be a specialist, but I think it's hard to be a specialist, at least an email copy specialist, with all the saturation right now. It is quite difficult to just say, oh, I'm an email specialist, because everybody says that these days because of the gurus.
But 90% of the people saying that, they're really just an email copywriter. They're just writing emails. That's really where their level stops. Which is not the case for you. It's not the case for a lot of high-level guys like Christian, who are full stack within email. They'll do more than just write the emails. They'll manage the SP. They know how to, do all the tech stuff. The audience segmentation, everything. They know the whole everything. They can take over your entire email machine and just manage it. It takes a lot off the plate of any of these entrepreneurs or business owners. And doing that makes a lot of sense. And similarly, like, for example, I'm targeting B2B SaaS companies now. I'm leading with landing pages, but I can also do, positioning strategy on landing pages. That's what I'll present online, on LinkedIn or whatever. But of course, I can do these other things if we get on a call or we do a few projects, and then they shoot me a message, go, hey, CJ, can you do emails or can you do ads? And I'm not, if I'm already working with a client, things are going good. Yeah, of course, I know how to do that. But I'm not like presenting online, like you see these people on LinkedIn or whatever, they've got like website copywriter / email copywriter / video script / it's like 4 lines. It's like, so what do you really do? And you're publicly presenting yourself as a jack of all trades. Whereas there's another guy who is like, I do home pages for B2B SaaS companies on only early stage startups, and it's hyper niche. And so like if anybody in that position is hiring, who are they going to go to? Or like if somebody's like, I want a full stack email marketer, like just Christian presenting himself as the email marketer, they'll go to him, you know.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. So if you're a beginner and you position yourself as a generalist, you're going to have trouble, because then it's like you do everything. But if you're a very experienced copywriter and you have lots of names that you've written for, then maybe those names are the ones that are actually differentiating you. If you call yourself, let's say, like a full stack copywriter, like you say, I'm a full stack copywriter for personal brands, and you have 7 personal brands you've written for that people recognize, then it's fine, right? I can see that now. But if you don't have any of those names and you say you're full stack or I can do everything, then it's like you can't really, there's no differentiator. Whereas if you're just doing the one thing, so it's a positioning thing, because I've actually always led with email. Personally, I've always led as email copywriter, millions generated from my email clients, my email copy clients, email dojo, everything's been email for me for 5 years. But I actually can write everything else. Like I can write VSLs, I can write ads, I can write landing pages, websites, blogs. But what I do is I'll go into a business. Usually I'll lead with email marketing as my best foot forward, because that's where I got majority of my results. And then sometimes on the sales call, they'll want something else. Or sometimes after that in the upsell, right? Like you said. And that's where you can take a client that pays you $3K a month to a client that pays you $5K a month, maybe, because now they say, hey, CJ, we love that you can write us all these landing pages, but we also actually would love if you could take care of our list. And then you're like, yeah, I can do that for you as well.
Yeah. I think that's one of the good things about email. It's because, a company will hire for a new website. Once the website's done, that's it. They're not going to hire you for another website next month. That's unlikely. But email is something that they're going to need often. So it's easier to enter and get a few emails as a test project, 5-10 emails with a new client, and then they see what you can do, and then you can upsell them into a monthly retainer of emails. So it's a good Trojan horse, if you like, to get in with a new client, just a few emails, But for sure, then it's one of the best for copywriters. Email definitely is one of the best options for getting monthly recurring revenue. You can land a client who's going to need emails every month. They're not going to turn that tap off. If they're selling well through emails, they'll continue to pay you direct 20 or 30 emails every month.
Yeah. What's your process for writing landing pages and like web copy? Like, how do you go about that with a client?
I'm actually working on my process. I mentioned before the call, I'm working on developing more of a productized service, because in the past I have customized my service quite a lot. I'm big on gathering voice of customer data. So if I'll do a discovery call with a client, they want a new landing page, they're selling whatever it is, a product, service, and offer. The early stages of the process is all about the market research. And so I'll gather whatever in-house docs they have, whatever information is going to be useful. Like you mentioned, like working with Dan Martell, so you got stuff from their side to really practice, writing in his voice. So I'll gather all that kind of stuff, like style guide, if they have a position deck, whatever. And then I'll do my own research on top. So I'll do competitor analysis and then gather a voice of customer, typically through interviews, surveys, and online forums like Reddit or social media groups as well, like Facebook groups. Excuse me. So this whole process for a single landing page, that research phase, can take about a week. The more you do, the better. But the voice of customer gathering, trawling through Reddit and trawling through Facebook groups or Amazon reviews or whatever, it can be a little bit tedious. So I'm working on using AI and just using better systems to really speed that up. Once I have all that research, though, then it just makes writing the copy so much easier. And you can actually really write copy that's just, it connects better with what people are actually saying. On Reddit, it's one of the best places to find real people having real conversations using real language. And here, there's no jargon, there's nothing about it. It's just real, gritty, raw emotions, which is what the best copy contains.
So it's a combination of going into the business and looking at the existing assets, and then also going into the marketplace and seeing how people are talking about whatever it is that you're writing about, whether it's SaaS or whether it's relationships or whether it's business or whatever. And Reddit's one of the places you go. Do you go to other places? I mean, I've looked at lots of books. My favorite research is actually sales pages from competitors. I find that that's the easiest. Like the industry leaders have a sales page. I look at those sales pages because I know that those copywriters have done a lot of research before they write those sales pages, and if they're making money, they're clearly hitting the right pain points. So I start there as my base. Is like, okay, they're saying they're using this word, they're using this word, they're using this word. This is like the audience language. And after sales pages, I go deeper into other markets. What else do you find like really good research or information?
Yeah, for sure. What you mentioned about looking at other sales pages, that's part of my competitor analysis stage. So I will look, like, typically will ask the client, are there, give me like 3 to 5 of your closest competitors for this offer. And so I can see what they're doing. And then I will also ask them, for voice guidance, I can ask them, a few influences that they maybe, it doesn't have to be the same industry, but they could say, well, we really like what Nike are doing or what Revolut are doing or something like that. They usually will shoot for somebody like this, like a big gun in a different industry, because they really like that style. And so I can look at all these pages and get ideas, not only around, within the same niche, what the competitors are doing, but also from other big companies in different industries, just get an idea of how the page is laid out. So when it comes to, laying out the frameworks and the wireframing of the page, you can draw inspiration from all these different sources. But yeah, I haven't really read books as much as part of the process on a typical landing page. Like, what kind of books would you be reading?
Well, with software, I was reading books like Traction by Gene Wickman. Okay. What else did I read? I think it's called Predictable Revenue, if I remember correctly. There's a couple of other books, one of Seth Godin's books as well. And these are the kinds of main books that software founders, they're reading when they're scaling, So it's kind of the language and the thinking and the stuff that they're talking about. And so I read those books and they helped me a lot. Interestingly, because Dan Martell also had I find him, because he's a coder originally. He was a coder, but he's also quite into sales. Like, he trained himself in sales. That was his background. His background felt more like sales voice than marketing voice. So I read a couple of sales books to get the sales language. And that also helped me to learn his voice, is sales books and like, Traction, I think, is a big book. And all the lingo of leadership and scaling, lots of scale language. So I would read books like that. One thing I learned from Dan Martell, I think this was actually something he taught me. He said, if you want to become an expert or you want to learn, I'm actually probably badly quoting him, but he said something like, if you want to get in with a certain industry, read the top 3 books in that category. And that sort of will put you in the realm of what people are really talking about. So, if I'm entering a new industry, completely new industry, let's say, I haven't really written in the relationship niche, for example. Under copywriters, like one-on-one copy critique, I've done actually quite a lot, probably over 300 emails of relationship copy, but I haven't actually written for a client directly in relationships. So if I was writing for a client directly in the relationship niche, let's say young men, I would probably read 3 to 5 books on how to attract women and be like the cool guy, or like how to go get girls or whatever, and read the top 3 to 5 books, and then use that information as my base for, like, okay, this is the mindset of these guys, because they probably read 1 or 2 of these books. Maybe they haven't read books, but if this is like the best stuff in the industry, then the other guys in the industry are using those books as a reference point for some of their coaching. Because that's also what happens, especially with personal brands, is a lot of the stuff is just repackaged. So if you got like two or three of the top books, it's business coaching is like this. You've got 2 or 3 books from 20, 30 years ago, and everyone has these same quotes. Hey, you're the same as the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think that's Jim Rohn. Like, there's all these quotes from all these guys, and then there's Earl Nightingale as well, the stuff that he says, and so there's just, there's this echo of it. So if you just read those books, you already have the 80-20. So that's kind of what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, I think any writer should be reading every day. It's interesting though, the one bottleneck when it comes to research is a lot of business owners don't always have the time or the patience or the resources to do a really lengthy research phase. Like for a landing page, with a SaaS company, maybe they don't mind. You know, I say, okay, we're going to research. I'm going to do research for a week, and then I'll do the first landing page. You'll have it in 2 weeks from today. SaaS companies do tend to be all right. They'll be like, cool. But I found like in the direct response world, if you're dealing with somebody who wants, like they've got a new offer, they want to launch the whole funnel, they may not be as keen for like that kind of time horizon. They'll be like, no, we got to have the entire email sequence done by the end of this week. We want the landing page first draft next Monday, and it's like, so you have to really accelerate your learning or your research. So if it's a new industry, you might not have the time to read an entire book or something before it. So that's why, not to shoot down your point, because I think it is important to be reading for sure, but it should be always happening. If you're just waiting to like, I'm just going to pick up a book the night before and to deliver this landing page. So
yeah,
just a lot of Red Bull,
Yeah, a lot of Red Bull, man. But I mean, this goes back to what you're saying about the fact that it's like it makes sense to double down on a niche once you have a certain experience level, because of the amount of time it takes, right? I mean, writing for Dan was not easy. It took me months to get it. It took me 4 hours to write one email. Today I could write the email maybe in 45 minutes, an hour, but it took me 4 times longer in the early days. And now I can do it. But I'm careful. If I want to write copy for a new industry, I know that there's a learning curve, and you can't, like you said, you can't read those books overnight. And I mean, sure, AI can help. I think if I had AI back when I was writing for Dan, I might have sped up that initial voice recognition learning curve, but I didn't have it. But now I think it's a bit faster. You can get, you could feed, let's say, for example, you could feed AI, 100 pages of a book or something interesting, and it could break down some of the key language. And sure, reading the book yourself, you're going to get a more intimate understanding of the reader, and the main audience. But that summary from AI might give you those keywords. You can kind of get away with it for a while. You can get away with the copy sounding like them until eventually you have to go a bit deeper, but you've bought yourself some time. But with a landing page, it's different,
Yeah, it's just what you're saying about what you've done with Dan Martell, or what you did do practicing copy work in his emails. It reminded me of what I've done with a few of my clients. I don't do this with every client, but if I know things are going well and I really want to keep them because I know there's a potential for them to be a forever client and at a good monthly rate, what I will do is then I will try to completely immerse myself in their business. I'll gather everything that I can from their side or from online, from all their channels. And I will create, this HQ, a folder on my computer or whatever, and within it, I'll create a spreadsheet. And it's basically just a messaging doc, a simple messaging doc where I will identify all the kind of phrases and words and different things, the isms, the slogans, things that pop up again and again and again. And you could do this if it's a personal brand and you're writing emails for them. You could do it if it's a tech company and you're doing all the brand copy on all their website. You'll notice that this kind of language, the core, the real spine of the brand voice, whatever niche it is. And there's going to be a lot of words and phrases that they seem to gravitate towards. And so I'll create this messaging doc, and it's an evolving document over time. And I get really immersed in their business and really embrace that voice to the point that I become the best person in the company to create that voice ongoing. And I've done that for a lot of clients, and then I will share. I know some people have done similar things in the dojo. They create like a playbook for their clients. So I will end up, this can become an integral part of like a playbook for your client, and it just makes producing copy for them on any other project. It makes it so much more easy, and it makes you much more valuable to them.
They don't want to let you go if you know their voice. It's very difficult. It's just like, do we have to train somebody else again? CJ's got it. He gets it, and I know this process as well, because when I was working with junior copywriters for many clients, the amount of effort that it takes to teach somebody the voice and the amount of time that they take to get the voice, even if they're a good writer, might take a month or two. And it's like, let's say it costs you 20% less to hire someone cheaper that's going to do the same work. Is it really worth the 20%? Because it's like those first 3 months, you're not going to really benefit. You're going to have a lot more work on your plate. You save money, but you don't really save money. So these businesses, I don't really think that they mostly price shop when you have the voice. It's not worth the price shop because they know how much time it's going to take to train somebody up on the voice. It's like, well, we don't mind paying the 20% more because there's minimal feedback on most of the stuff. Like it's mostly on brand, on point, exactly what we had in mind. And every month we work with you, it gets better. So let's just keep working with you. We're happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you know it so well, like you said, it's not worth them price shopping because they're going to just have to hold somebody else's hand for a few months and work with them so closely. They're going to lose time from other parts of the business that they could be focusing on. So it's to your point there, you mentioned there 5 minutes ago about like, once you find that niche, you should try and go deeper on it and become a specialist in that niche. I think it's Alan Sultanich commented something like this. This is a while back. I'll probably butcher this quote, but it was something he said. It was like a lot of copywriters today, they see all this stuff that they've been sold. Copywriting's been sold like a biz app. So people are like, oh, I want to make 10K a month, 20K a month, 30K a month. And they tell themselves they're going to reach that level. And when they reach that level, then they'll start to study and do copywriting and actually read books and get really good. Yeah. But it's the other way around. And like Alan had it was a really cool quote or line on it. It was like an analogy of a tree, where he explained it doesn't work like that. He says first the roots have to go down, and then the tree grows up. You can't grow up first and then put your roots down like so. But and a lot of people overlook that. They just want to like, I'm going to hit the goal first and then I'll figure out my shitty systems.
Business owners aren't very different from my experience, especially startup entrepreneurs. The gurus, I've had many gurus. I've heard them say stuff like, we're scaling to $1 million a month. Once we hit $1 million a month, then we'll focus on client success. Then we'll hire a client success expert. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, it's like, oh yeah, no, we got to figure out our systems. We got to figure out our marketing. We got to figure out our sales process. We got to get our ads right. We'll work on client success after we hit $1 million a month. And it's like, bro, your satisfaction rate is like 5%. You're going to hit $1 million a month twice. 70%. Yeah. You're going to hit, well, they don't have churn, right? Because they're going to sell you 10K up front and then that's it, right? So they get you in and then you don't even have to worry about churn. But they'll get to $1 million for 2 months, 3 months maybe. And then the amount of complaints that build up from the 95% that don't get any success is going to build such a negative word of mouth about them that they're never going to be able to actually scale again. And that's the worst part. Is like, you might hit $1 million if you're a very successful, temporarily very successful guru, please, that's going to hurt you later if you don't get this right. If you don't get the customer success right, by the time you get to those top levels, you're going to have a buildup of all these miserable, upset customers, and they're going to go and complain on Reddit. And copywriters, we know about all of the unhappy people because when we do our Reddit research, we see a whole thread about, oh, this person scammed 500. No, he scammed me. Oh, he scammed me too. He scammed me too. And so you get all these negative complaints. Your chargebacks go through the roof. Your refunds go through the roof. Your churn rate gets pretty big. Cancellation rates go up. And it just becomes harder and harder and harder to maintain the same income. Whereas you do it the other way around, which I think this is what I love about software companies, is that they're almost always the other way around. They're almost always product-led. It's funny. They're already at like $1 million a month, and then it's like, okay, we want to build a website. It's like you've been scaling. You got all these customers, and you don't even have like any official marketing channel yet because it's just been this referral engine, or the CEO is on LinkedIn, and all these guys, all of his network is using his product, and they're already pretty big. And that's why I think a lot of software companies do so well, right? Because they got all those roots, they got all the customers, they're happy customers, their product is great. They've got product market fit.
Yeah, it's all about the product. It's all as long as the app delivers a really good user experience, that's all that they need initially to grow. They don't need like a website and all, even much of us. They don't need a full social media marketing campaign across every channel. If they've got a really good app and they can just run a funnel, some ads and word of mouth from conferences, a scrappy, bootstrap startup can grow remarkably fast. As has, a lot of companies. Have you heard of Hopin?
Sorry, which one?
Hopin, Hopin. Yeah, they during COVID they launched, and they positioned themselves as an online conference, an online video conference. So it was basically just it was the beginning of all these online conferences, because obviously nobody could go to in-person conferences during COVID. But it was really just like a spin on Zoom, on video meetings. But it was just thousands of people were going to show up on these different video events, but they didn't have a fantastic website to start. It was just the idea. They positioned it slightly different to all these other video meeting platforms, and they blew up. They were kicking the ass of $100 million a year, 2 years after they launched. It was crazy. And like you said, it's only later that then they start to think about, okay, our whole brand now we need a new website. Our voice kind of sucks on the website that we've got. And I was approached there about a month ago. I did an interview with a company, Synthesia. They're like an AI video platform. They create AI avatars. So you can create a whole, say, sales training or marketing materials with an AI avatar, like a clone or robot. But it allows you to do it all without any video production, any studio, any experience. It's all drag and drop and the AI.
Oh, interesting.
And they've grown really fast as well, man. They're worth, I think they're a unicorn. They're valued at 1.5 billion or so, but they only launched 3 years ago. And
crazy.
I was on the call with the product marketing manager, and I was like, "You guys are blowing up. So why are you hiring a copywriter now?" They were hiring a brand copywriter. And he said, "Well, yeah, we grew really fast, but now we're kind of like the gangly teenager at this point, where our voice is starting to break and stuff. So, a lot of people are paying attention to us now. We're aware of things they're a little bit awkward in some corners." He said, but there's a funny analogy, he says our voice is starting to break. We're a bit awkward, a few spots on our face, So we want to really clean things up and just get focused, look more professional, and just develop a really strong voice now and a new website and all of that. So
interesting.
It's pretty common in the startup world.
But it's nice. I prefer that. I prefer being on the other side where the product is doing all the heavy lifting and the brand, is helping a bit with that. And then you come in and, you put the finishing touches on. Because really copy is mostly finishing touches. It's not, you're not creating the product. I mean, good copywriters obviously also offer creators, so they also can consult on that. But I find that if you want to create results for a business, you're doing the final 10%. The offer's already there, the market's there, product's good, customer success is good, marketing strategy might even already be established, and now all you're doing is putting the copy on the page that's going to take it past the finish line.
Absolutely. And your job's a whole lot easier if it is genuinely a good product, it's genuinely a good offer. If it's something crap or scammy or whatever, it's going to be very hard to deliver sustainable success for that client, no matter how good a copywriter you are. Somebody in the dojo had a good take on that. Basically, what you're saying, that copies are the last 10%. It might have been John Caprani said, copywriting's like the tip of the spear. So everything else could be in place for the strategy and all that. You're just coming in and put that tip on the spear.
That completely blows all these results that copywriters brag about out of the water. Because a lot of them, they're like, 10 million generated. And it's well, the copy you wrote is probably equally as good as maybe the copy somebody else wrote for a business that's not so good. But because of the offer, one has got 10 million results and the other one's got 200,000. It's just the offer.
Yeah, and that might come down not so much to the copywriting, like the actual, the words, it's maybe more to do with the strategy, like how you're positioning the offer, or just some smart conversion rate optimization tactics, and it can really change everything. But that's you're really only capable of doing that as like a strategy consultant or doing CRO once you've had enough time in the game. I don't see a lot of new copywriters having that capability, but it takes time to go deep on a niche and really get that experience, and then you can offer that kind of service as a consultant.
There's so many different ways you can take this career. I love that about copywriting. It's like you don't have to, there's no ceiling. You can always adjust or pivot into something else that's in the marketing world. For somebody that's, let's say, I don't know, 3 to 5K a month, somebody that's not quite hit 10K yet, but they're looking to build up, they've got a little bit of momentum. What would you say they should focus their time on?
Developing more skills to complement their copy. It's just, in 2025, I personally, maybe it's just a personal opinion, but 2025, I don't see copywriting as a career anymore. It's more of a core skill within other careers. Like 5 years ago, you could just be a copywriter and easily get to 10K a month, easily maybe go to 20K a month without a team. But it's harder to do that now because of the immense competition. There's so many people just entering the field every month, off the back of courses from Andrew Tate or Tyson 4D or Alex Catoni. The market's just been flooded with like an army of copywriters. And a lot of them, they're young and hungry. They've no responsibilities. They'll work through the night, and they'll offer really lowball rates to get started. And you put that on one side, then you've got AI as well as another factor, which all business owners are like curious about that, how they can save time and save money with AI instead of expensive freelancers. And then you also have all these job cuts happening at a lot of tech companies. Not just tech companies, but a lot of companies. So you get all this experienced talent, marketers with 5, 10, 15 years of experience, CMOs and product marketing managers, all entering the market looking for work too. And they've got so much more experience than all these new guys who just did a course for a month, So like, if you're coming in, you've got like 1 or 2 clients, you've got 3 to 5K, and you're competing with all of this, you can't just be another copywriter. You're just going to get drowned out in the noise. So you have to then develop these more valuable skills in, we mentioned already, in like strategy. You want to eventually you be on the road, be on the track to becoming, a strategy consultant, whether that's within email or becoming like a CRO strategist or a positioning strategist. Just something that's a level above just writing words in a Google Doc. It can't only be that.
100%. Yeah, that's definitely what I've been seeing too. I mean, I put that in my most recent training I put together, I've been sharing on YouTube, is that if you want to win now, it's not enough to just be, able to write email copy. The first level up, before even learning other skills, is to just not be able to just write emails, but also to be able to write ads and to be able to write landing pages. And so if you're a copywriter, first win, I think, is, okay, you can write emails. Can you write ads? Because majority of these new copywriters flooding the space are going to choose the lowest or the easiest copy, which is they think is email. I think email is actually not as simple as they think, but it's very templatized at this point. And so you can probably cheat your way in kind of with email, but very few copywriters are confident to offer ads and VSLs because there's money that get put behind those. And so it's a bit more intimidating, and business owners are a little bit more picky about who they work with because they're about to put $20,000 in ad spend behind the copy creative. So if you stack on those skills first, then you have a better chance. And then, like you said, you add other skills. Like I learned how to run the entire email list. Other people have media buying as a skill that they have. Other people can build. Other people have, yeah, they have other skills that they start adding to that. They can build funnels, or they work with people that can build funnels, and then they partner with a designer or a funnel builder, and you start to offer more than just Google Doc. So I'm with you. I'm with you.
You mentioned building funnels. That's an interesting one. I think anybody in the direct response world should be, not anybody, but any up-and-coming copywriter should look at that as a serious consideration. Because what I noticed when I went into the dojo and then joined Nothing Held Back on Facebook, this was, despite having 5 or 6 years experience at that time, this was all new to me. And there's just so many people in there who are hungry for their first gig or their next gig, or to break the 5K ceiling, wherever they're at. But they're all kind of offering the same thing. They're all kind of copywriters. But a lot of these personal brands and 8-9-figure entrepreneurs, they all use things like ClickFunnels and Go High Level and stuff. So if you can be going in and say, well, I won't just write the copy for your entire funnel and your emails and your upsells and all this, I can also build it. I can also do all the stuff in ClickFunnels or whatever you're using, ActiveCampaign. That just sets you apart straight away. So having
instantly.
Instantly. And it puts you in a very small pool. There's not so many competitors in there. It becomes more of a blue ocean. And a lot of copywriters, I'd say most copywriters they have creative minds. So it is a nice variety when you can actually do some creative work in your day as well. Whether it's a drag and drop program on ClickFunnels, or whether you're creating landing page wireframes in Figma, something like that. It's a nice variety, and it also just becomes a more premium package, a premium offer to prospects.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think it can be intimidating to think of these other things to do besides copy, but really, my experience with all the tech has been that it's actually a lot easier than you think, because tech is there it's supposed to make it easier. All these software, let's just take email tech, not even funnels. Let's just talk email tech for a second. People are like, oh, do I need to join a course to learn ActiveCampaign? It's like, no, ActiveCampaign created their ESP to make life easier for business owners, not more complicated. So all these guys that think they mystify and make it all sound this it's not complicated. The whole ActiveCampaign and HubSpot and ConvertKit and whatever other ESP you're using, the only way that they're going to grow their business is if they get adoption. And they can only get adoption if the product's actually easy to use. So they're creating articles constantly to actually teach people how to use their software. And once you understand that most tech has got articles and they're building it to make it easier and easier to use so that they can get better user adoption, so that they can actually grow their business, you realize it's actually not so difficult, and all the resources are already available, usually with the company. You don't even need to buy a course for it. So it's actually not, it's just a little bit unfamiliar, and there's less marketing about it. I guarantee, CJ, that if there were guys on YouTube that hyped it up and made it sound like a biz op, you would have a lot of people learning about it. It's just because nobody talks about, learn ActiveCampaign. There's no ActiveCampaign goldmine. It's not like a hook, that people if it was called ActiveCampaign goldmine, or the fastest way to get to 10K in 2025 that no one knows about with this little software called AC. I'm telling you, everybody would suddenly know how to use ActiveCampaign. It's just because it doesn't have that exciting feel to it that people don't learn about it. But that's where the actual money is learning about that kind of thing, or being open to learning like that.
I think, I totally agree with all of that. It's, a lot of people are drawn into copywriting because maybe they see themselves as a creative writer or a storyteller, or they're interested in psychology, and it has that. There's that appeal to it when people are selling copywriting as a biz up, but anything technical, people are like, oh, that's too far out of my comfort zone, and they're not instantly drawn into it. But you're right. There's probably some clever copywriter could come along and turn that into a biz up. ActiveCampaign, it's been in front of your nose all this time. This is it.
Oh no. Oh man, that's funny. CJ, where can people get in touch with you if they wanted to learn your secrets? And maybe even potentially work with you.
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm working on a new website, somewhat of a new business and offer, but that's under construction. So they can find me on LinkedIn for now, CJ Haughey. And I'm open to chat anytime.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I had a great time. Those were really interesting. And chat with you soon, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the opportunity. It was good to chat. And yeah, we'll chat soon.